Headline Florida, March 2016. The Republican Party establishment, unfamiliar with the ways of Twitter, are stunned by the rise of Trump.
We are deeply shocked and deeply regretful about the results.
George Romney's boy, Mitt, rolls out a formula to try to stop the Trump machine.
A business genius, he is not.
In the Democratic race, months of politicking reach a moment of decision.
And there they go.
Hillary Clinton cruises toward Michigan. Wait, that's not the finish line. Didn't see that coming. It's Sanders with a huge upset heading into Florida.
I'm talking about huge, huge, huge.
Meanwhile, Republicans prepare for bedlam at their convention this summer in Cleveland. While their towering frontrunner claims it's all over but the singing. Florida has a history of high drama on election night.
It says, I voted, I think.
We've come a long way from hanging chads and butterfly ballots that trick people into voting for Pat Buchanan.
Oh, gosh.
But this is Florida, where anything can happen.
Frank, have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I haven't.
I got a birdie phone. Thank you very much.
And we've never seen a race quite like this.
Little Marco and Lion Ted Cruz. Lion Ted, Lion Ted. My name's Lion Ted Cruz.
Now Marco Rubio is in the fight of his life in his own home state, and he answers our questions about the nasty tone of the race.
Do you think that you've said anything that would be appalling to Ronald Reagan?
Probably.
We'll also go one-on-one with Bernie Sanders, who pulled off a stunner in Michigan. Plus, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Charlie LeDuff takes us down the I-4 corridor. Our pollster Matt Towery has projections, and Charley Belcher has the pulse of the people.
You know what's really scary?
Me with a megaphone.
This is Money, Power, and Politics. Florida is the nation's ultra battleground state, and we live right here in the swing zone. So to figure out Florida, you have to understand the people and the issues down the I-4 corridor. So we start with Charlie LeDuff and a swing trip through swing country.
To the Daytona 500. Side by side, bouncing off each other. Unbelievable. I think it was standing here.
The morning after the spectacle of the Daytona 500, the people have gone, the turkey buzzards have come, and Danny and Becky clean the toilets.
It's not an easy job. We did it before.
Oh, you do it every year?
Yeah.
What do they pay?
I don't know. Yeah, minimum
Minimum
wage.
wage?
Yeah, I think it's $9. No?
$7.67.
$7.67. Wow, I didn't know that. Well, I gotta find the dumpster.
Economic refugees circling toward the drain, wanting to vote, feeling like there's no one to vote for.
So you think he's yelling help?
Yes.
All right, what is your...
There's gunshot.
It's the anniversary of the killing of Trayvon Martin. Teenagers in his neighborhood do what the adults will not: talk about it.
So, you're about Trayvon Martin's age, right?
Yes, sir.
You feel like that could happen to you?
Possibly. That's why I don't stay out too late.
You just, because you're afraid?
No, not really. It's just because my mom tells me to.
What do you think?
Well, it's just mainly about color. You don't really see white people getting beat up or shot or, like, harassed, so I think it's about skin, but I don't see a difference.
The I-4 corridor, one of the fastest growing, most diverse swaths in America. Here, it's all about jobs.
This country is not a country anymore, it's a business, you know, and everybody's on the chopping block because of that.
Well, yeah, I do. I think that a lot of us are just kind of operating out of fear in this election cycle, just trying to figure out who's not going to make the worst decisions for us, right?
Exactly.
Disney created the town of Celebration from scratch. After the real estate collapse, this realtor now pitches the American dream to foreigners.
And so right now at 3.5% to 4%, it's free money.
So why wouldn't you? If you could go out and buy a home right now, why wouldn't you go out and buy a home?
Free money's a realtor's friend.
Absolutely.
Go out to be American and spend it.
Absolutely.
The other side of the freeway is home to the Puerto Ricans who mop Disney's toilets and mow Celebration's lawns. They're a different kind of Latino. They're American citizens. He says there's no work in Puerto Rico and little work here. He shares room at this motel with another man for $1,000 a month. There's nothing left over to help his family. Says the pressure's great to perform. Last election, he voted Obama. This time, he says, maybe Trump, because he's a businessman.
What's the closest you've been to an alligator?
Politician?
No, politicians you can't trust them. These you can trust somewhat.
Oh, man, and we're coming up back here.
Hey, run these way.
Anything for a story, I suppose. Go on, Mark. Easy peasy squeezy. This place blew my mind. 50,000 senior citizens living behind the gates. A Viagra Valhalla. They vote conservative here, but every night is like Woodstock. Just a couple miles down the road, they're also drinking beer. A few come here asking for votes.
They don't really care about this corner. They really care about what's going on with them. You know, it's just like the rich man care about the rich man, and the poor man really care about the poor man. Really, we don't really, you know, they don't care really about the poor people. But don't nothing goes on here.
Central Florida also puts strawberries on your breakfast table. And you know what that means.
Well, it'd be nice if the Americans right here would come out here and do the job I need done. But if I can't get Americans here to do this job, I need a means to bring in people from another country that want to come do this job. And I'm not for sending all the ones back that has been in this country for 40 years, and just because they're here illegally. Yeah, they broke the law, ain't we all?
On the outskirts of Tampa, right off MLK Boulevard, you're greeted by the world's largest Confederate flag. You're reminded this is still the Deep South, and some things die hard.
We feel in Florida threatened.
The white Southern man's on the run in Florida?
No, we're not on the run. We're in the closet sometimes, but when they can have a chance to speak out, for example, this election that's coming up, we put that flag up to make sure that they understand that we're here and we want to be heard.
We'll have live results as they come in Tuesday night. We'll be right back.
And clear. 2 minutes back, Greg.
Dude, that's a trip. What did I just see?
That was Florida. That's Central Florida. And so goes Central Florida, so goes the state, so goes the nation.
It really looks like America. It does. And you know what I see? One, they don't care 2 bits what we say. They don't. They're picking themselves. And 2, it's not so far apart. We're not down the toilet. We have issues, but we can fix it.
Nation's biggest swing state will vote March 15th.
Yeah, well, anyway, pick a winner, Florida. We're counting on you. Nice. Had a bald spot?
No.
Okay, man, talk to you. I thought I got sunburned. It's real nice down here.
All right, coming up, we'll go one-on-one with Bernie Sanders and Marco Rubio, and we'll roll out our projections for Tuesday. We're joined now by Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Okay, so if Congress does not go along with single-payer health care, would you support increasing federal funding for Florida's low-income pool so that people could get the health care they need?
Throughout my entire life, I have believed that health care is a right of all people. And in any and every way that I can, I want to see all of our people have health insurance. I will do everything that I can to lower the outrageous rip-off of the drug companies and charging us the highest prices in the world for medicine. We'll do everything we can to lower deductibles and co-payments. I think the best way forward is a Medicare for All healthcare program.
And if you enact the tax increases that you propose, how would you prevent capital flight, a flow of money out of the country?
There are ways to do that. I mean, there are tax methodologies that tell corporations that if they go abroad and they're still American corporations, they are going to have to pay their fair share of taxes.
According to Bloomberg, Tampa Bay ranks 5th highest in the nation in terms of income inequality. What specifically do you see in Tampa Bay that may be causing that that's not happening in other places?
Well, I'll tell you, what's happening in Tampa Bay, what's happening all over this country. The rich are getting richer, and you got a lot of people working for $8, $9, $10 an hour.
We have another round of Brock coming up. Would you say that MacDill Air Force Base should or should not be considered for further cuts or closure?
I honestly could not say, because it's not an issue that I've studied.
In terms of space exploration, what should our vision be from here? Where should we go? When should we do it?
I think space exploration and the adequate funding of NASA is really important. And it's not just space exploration. As a result of the work of NASA and what we have already done, we have learned a whole lot and created a lot of products that are helping all of us right here on planet Earth.
Current budget around $19 billion. Should it be higher, lower?
Yeah, I would support increasing funding, yes.
But you've voted for decreasing funding in the past.
It depends on contexts. If we are raising the kinds of revenue that we need to make sure that children in America don't go hungry, and that we're rebuilding our infrastructure, which is what I intend to do, then I would support increased funding for NASA.
The National Flood Insurance Program has gone deeply into debt. Should we be in the business, the government, of subsidizing flood insurance? And if so, should we also subsidize hurricane insurance so that...
Well, it depends where. I mean, if people want to build buildings in flood zones or places where we expect floods to take place, no. I think we got to take a hard look at that.
Senator Sanders, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
In the Republican race, Marco Rubio tried to take down Donald Trump with insults. But as Rubio tanked, he refocused by channeling Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan was the conservative movement at its best. And it's about those values being transmitted in the most optimistic way possible.
Senator Rubio, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, so Ronald Reagan invoked an 11th commandment. Thou shalt not speak ill of another Republican. If you had to guess, how many times have you found yourself breaking that commandment this year?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, this is not the campaign I wanted us to have. Donald Trump hasn't just spoken ill of Republicans. I mean, he's made fun of disabled people. He's made fun of women journalists. He's made fun of minorities. There comes a point where you got to stand up to someone, at least for a moment, and just kind of set them back a little bit on it. But that's not the campaign I wanted to run. It's not the campaign we're running now.
And Ed Rollins, who ran Reagan's re-election campaign, said Reagan would be appalled by the insults that are flying back and forth. Do you think that you've said anything that would be appalling to Ronald Reagan?
Probably, but I think by and large, you can't say that this is an even thing. I mean, Donald Trump has been insulting people on a regular basis for a year. Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan have literally nothing in common in terms of what it means to be an optimistic conservative. But that's the campaign I want to run.
Why do you think that Rick Scott and Pam Bondi have not yet endorsed you?
A lot of people just don't like to get involved in primaries. You know, in 2012, I didn't get involved in the Republican primary in Florida. I wanted to leave it up to the voters, and I respect that. Rick, I think, was pretty clear about it, and that is when he ran, he had a bunch of people come out and endorse against him, and he didn't appreciate it, and he wants the voters to decide, and I respect that. I really do.
And you relish the role of playing underdog, but why do you think that you're trailing in your own home state?
Well, you know how Florida is a very unique place. I mean, it's a state that's people come from all over the country, and they're very impacted by the national coverage. Donald Trump has dominated news coverage. Every time he says something nasty or vulgar, the press covers him. He's had 10 times as much coverage than every other Republican combined. I give a policy speech, it gets no coverage. He says a bad word on stage and it becomes wall-to-wall coverage for 2 days. But I think that's going to change. You're already seeing that changing. I think now that the campaign is focusing in on Florida, that we're here campaigning, that people are starting to really pay attention.
And speaking of Reagan, if Reagan was alive today and in his prime, do you think he would have trouble? Could he win in today's landscape?
Absolutely, he could. He would remind us of what the Republican Party is at its best. The Republican Party at its best is an optimistic conservative party. What we're seeing now is something different. It's an appeal to anger. It's an appeal to frustration. People have a right to be angry and frustrated. As they recall, that's why I ran against Charlie Crist in 2010. I didn't want our next U.S. Senator to be someone that was going to go up there and not take on the Obama agenda. But you should use that to motivate you, not to define you. And so we're going to offer an optimistic vision of the future, a future of how we can reinvigorate the American dream and have a new American century. And I know that in the end, that's what's going to put us over the top in Florida.
Senator Rubio, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll have predictions from our pollster Matt Towery. We'll go behind the scenes of a Florida election, and Charley Belcher has the voice of the people. Please welcome our pollster, Matt Towery. Matt, thank you for joining us.
Happy to be with you, Craig.
So we watch our polls, not just for the numbers, but for the movement. And the movement does not favor Marco Rubio. He has been going down, and it seems to have happened right after robocalls from Romney went out trying to bring his numbers up. Is that a coincidence?
I don't think so. Numerous people who know Florida politics well all suspect that the Mitt Romney move to make the robocalls into Florida probably has backfired. We've seen Donald Trump's numbers actually accelerate from an internal poll that we did just 3 or 4 days ago before we did this first official poll for Fox 13. And now we see Trump really rising quickly.
Translation, Mitt Romney is inadvertently doing Donald Trump a favor.
Probably the combination of that and also what we saw from the Michigan results and the Mississippi results and the results in Hawaii. It's just beginning to look like momentum is moving in Florida. And as you know, Craig, Florida is a momentum state.
At the end of the day, your reputation is all you've got. Do you think that Rubio tainted his brand with the insult comedy as a rising GOP optimistic kind of star? And is that playing into this?
This was not the Marco Rubio that I know. He says that now, and I think he's hurt his brand. I would not say it's destroyed. You never say never in politics, but certainly this has been a difficult time for him to see himself stuck around or near Ted Cruz in the 20 percentile range in Florida. That wasn't what he had planned.
And so now we have Ted Cruz making some hay in Florida, making a move here. I think he's trying to put Rubio away so he gets a mano-a-mano maybe with Trump. Is that a good strategy for Cruz?
Oh, that's Cruz's only strategy. And in fact, Cruz needs to really hope that in Ohio, John Kasich actually ends up losing. Because if John Kasich wins in Ohio, they continue on to these winner-take-all states with Kasich being an alternative for the establishment, Cruz being the alternative for so-called, conservatives who are evangelical or anti-Trump, and then Trump getting the Trumpians.
Matt Towery, you'll be with us once again on Tuesday night. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, we'll all watch the results come in on Tuesday night, but we don't often see how it all comes together. So now we want to take you behind the scenes at the Hillsborough County Elections Office.
There's a lot of moving parts.
And it's a lot of parts to move.
There's a tremendous amount of planning.
Ballots have been flying out of the Hillsborough Election Center for weeks. They're printed, folded, and fed down the line. The machine slips on a secrecy sleeve, tucks in a return envelope, and spits out a package addressed to the voter who requested it.
Here they go.
Then they sort the ballots by zip code to get a postal discount. This is bulk shipping by the ton. One box of ballots can weigh more than 1,200 pounds. Election staffers load ballots by forklift onto a moving truck for their trip to the post office. Then they gather all the signs and scanners and rows of equipment and ship them out to some 300 voting sites across Hillsborough County.
Everything that goes in and out of this door is barcoded, and we know when it goes out, when it comes back, and where it's going.
A staff of 42 swells to a team of hundreds, then thousands as we approach Election Day.
We use what we call a test deck with a predetermined outcome so that we're able to ascertain that it did in fact count the votes correctly.
And between all of the testing and planning and training,
Mr. Latimer. Thank you.
Latimer reaches out to citizens. In this case, new citizens, to encourage them to vote. And after those votes get counted, he'll store the paper ballots among the millions of other pages from elections past. And then gear up for the next campaign.
We get excited about elections.
And that brings us to voters who will finally sound off. Coming up.
Me with a megaphone.
And now the voters have the final word from Tampa Bay. Charley Belcher, take it away.
That's right, Craig. Charley Belcher reporting here quite literally right next to Tampa Bay. It started in Iowa, New Hampshire. So many other states have cast their ballots in this primary season. Finally, it's Florida's turn. Finally time for our voices
To be heard loud and clear. And guess what? We're ready to be heard.
Finally, Floridians are going to get their voice in this whole election process.
I hear you.
Are you ready to have your voice heard?
Yes.
Yeah, it's about time. Yeah, definitely about time.
What do you want to say to those politicians?
Oh, gosh.
Fight fair. Think of us for a change.
Vote Tuesday. Florida primary.
Vote Trump in. Let's get rid of all the career politicians. Tired of them coming in, saying what they're going to do and never doing it.
I say go Trump, go Trump, go Trump. Be honest and keep your word.
You know what's really scary?
Me with a megaphone. Can I ask you a quick question? Why in the world would you stop for some guy just yelling at you in a megaphone?
Didn't want to be rude. Do not vote for Trump. He's an idiot.
Change America. Take it away from the politicians. Run it like a business.
Run the country like a business.
Yes, therefore we have to vote for a businessman.
I think I'm picking up on what you fellas are laying down.
You know, a primary election is kind of like driving a bike with training wheels. And then in November, the training wheels come off.
What message do you want to send to politicians out there?
That let you know, hope I have a good day.
Oh, see, it's so sweet. You have my vote. If you run for Queen of the Unicorns, I'm voting for you, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Good luck with the training wheels.
Okay.
Well, there you go, Craig. As you can see, Floridians are ready for their voices to be heard loud and clear, like on a megaphone.
You know, that's probably best. I'm Charley Belcher. Back to you, Craig.
Thank you, Charlie. And please join us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and of course right here on Fox 13 for much more to come. Thank you for watching and for voting.